The human exploration ship descended slowly through the skies of an unknown world. Its silver hull reflected the glowing colors above, where clouds shimmered with strange lights. The planet was alive with energy, its forests stretching like waves of green flame, and its rivers glowed faint blue as if carrying stars within them. The humans had traveled far across space in search of new friends, new knowledge, and perhaps a place where peace could grow. From the ship stepped Thomas, the man chosen to be the diplomat of the crew. He was not the tallest or the strongest among them, but his calm voice and steady heart made him the best to speak for humanity. He carried no weapon, only a simple translator device and a small flag of earth. The ground beneath his boots felt soft, covered in moss that shone faintly under the light of two suns. Alien guards with tall frames and crystal armor surrounded him at once. Their eyes glowed like molten silver, and their steps were silent even on the moss. Thomas did not flinch. He bowed his head slightly, showing respect in the way humans do. The guards did not speak, but they gestured for him to follow. He was led along a path between tall trees that seemed to hum with sound, as if the forest itself was singing. At the end of the path stood a structure that seemed grown, not built. It rose high with twisting towers that looked like stone and crystal fused together. Water flowed down the sides in bright streams, falling into pools where fish with wings swam in circles. This was not a place of war or greed, but of beauty and pride. Thomas felt both awe and humility as he stepped closer. Inside the hall, the air was filled with a sweet fragrance, like flowers that had never existed on Earth. Alien banners hung from high beams, each marked with patterns of stars and flowing lines. At the far end stood a throne made of living crystal. Upon it sat the queen of this world. She was unlike anything Thomas had seen before. Her form was tall and graceful, her skin shimmering faintly like metal touched by moonlight. Her silver eyes studied him, and her voice when she spoke carried a calm strength. It was music yet firm, kind yet commanding. "You are human," she said through the translator. The words were strange yet clear. "Why do you come to my world?" Thomas stood tall, though his heart beat fast. He answered with respect. "We come not as conquerors, but as travelers. We wish to learn, to share, and to build peace with those who will accept it." The queen tilted her head slightly. Her council, standing to the sides, murmured among themselves. Some looked doubtful, even hostile, but the queen kept her eyes on Thomas. There was something in the way he spoke, not just the words, but the tone. He was sincere. He was not afraid, nor was he trying to impress. He spoke simply as one being to another. "Your kind is far from home," the queen said. "Many who come from the stars seek to take, not to give." "Why should I believe you are different?" Thomas took a deep breath. "Because we are not perfect, but we are willing. We fight for what we love, and we protect those who stand beside us. If we wished to take, we would have come with armies, not with one man holding a flag." The hall grew quiet. The guards remained still. The council exchanged glances. The queen's lips curved into a faint smile, the first sign of emotion since he entered. She leaned forward, resting her chin lightly on her hand, as if she found this human both curious and refreshing. "Courage without arrogance," she whispered softly in her own tongue. And the translator struggled to catch the meaning. For a long moment, neither spoke. Thomas simply stood there, his posture calm, his gaze steady. The queen's eyes glimmered like silver fire as she studied him, and though she showed no sign of anger, he felt the weight of her presence pressing on him like the stars themselves. Yet he did not look away. Finally, the queen raised her hand, and the hall stirred again. "You may remain as my guest," she declared. "We shall see if your words carry truth." The guards lowered their spears. The council whispered with unease, but the queen's decision was final. Thomas bowed his head again, thankful yet aware this was only the first step. As he was led to chambers prepared for him, he thought about the queen's eyes. They were not just cold silver. They held curiosity, perhaps even a spark of something warmer. The first meeting had not ended in anger or rejection. Instead, it had opened a door. For Thomas, it was the beginning of something greater than diplomacy. For the queen, it was the first time she wondered if humans were not just travelers from a small blue world, but something more. Something that could change her people's future. Part 2. Words Across Worlds. The morning on the alien world began with twin suns rising over the crystal towers. Their light poured across the forests, making the leaves shine like glass. Birds with long wings flew high, their voices sharp yet pleasant. Thomas stood on the balcony of the chamber given to him. He had barely slept, for his mind had been full of the Queen's words and her silver eyes. He knew the first meeting had gone well, but trust was still far away. Guards arrived to escort him to the great hall again. They moved in perfect rhythm, their armor glowing faintly in the light. Thomas followed in silence, trying to appear calm, though inside he felt the weight of the task before him. He was not only a man speaking for himself, but for all of humanity. The grand hall was brighter this time, lit by crystals that floated in the air. Banners of alien design stretched from one end to the other, each symbol telling stories of battles and victories. At the far end, the Queen sat once again on her crystal throne. Around her stood members of the council, their faces set with suspicion. As Thomas entered, all eyes turned toward him. He walked forward with steady steps, stopping at the center of the hall. He bowed, showing respect, then lifted his gaze toward the Queen. "You return," the Queen said, her voice soft yet strong. "Are you ready to answer the questions of my people?" Thomas nodded. "I will answer as truthfully as I can." One council member, a tall figure with sharp features, stepped forward. His voice was firm. "Tell us, human, what do your people desire from this galaxy? Do you seek land, wealth, or dominion over others?" Thomas met the counselor's eyes. "We seek none of those things. We explore because we wish to learn. We hope to share knowledge, to form friendships. But if danger comes, we defend ourselves and those we care for. That is our nature." A ripple of whispers moved across the council. Some shook their heads. Others looked thoughtful. The Queen raised her hand and the hall grew quiet again. She leaned slightly forward. "You speak of defense and love. But why should I believe you? Many species before you came with kind words, then brought war. Why is humanity different?" Thomas breathed slowly. He thought of Earth, of the many struggles humans had faced. He remembered stories of nations once divided, then united in times of need. He thought of explorers who sailed oceans with nothing but stars as their guide. "We are different because we are fragile yet strong," he said. "We have known hunger, storms, and darkness, yet we endure. We may argue, but when something threatens what we value, we stand together. If we came here to take, we would have arrived with weapons. Instead, I stand alone, carrying only a flag." His words echoed in the hall. For a moment, there was silence. The Queen studied him with eyes that seemed to shine brighter than before. Another counselor spoke, this one with a softer voice. "Human, tell us of your world. What is Earth like?" Thomas smiled faintly. "Earth is a small blue planet with oceans that cover most of its surface. Its skies are painted with clouds, its lands filled with forests, mountains, deserts, and fields. Life is rich there. We have animals that soar in the sky, swim in the seas, and walk upon the ground. We have songs and stories older than our history and space. It is our home, and though it is not perfect, it is beautiful." The hall grew quiet again as the council listened. Even the guards seemed moved by his description. The Queen tilted her head, her silver hair catching the light. "You speak with love for your world," she said. "Do you carry that same love for others beyond it?" "Yes," Thomas answered. "If we find friends among the stars, we will cherish them as we cherish our own." The Queen's lips curved into a gentle smile. It was faint but unmistakable. Some of her council looked unsettled, but she did not mind their unease. She had heard many voices over the years, from leaders of distant systems to warriors seeking alliance, but none had spoken quite like this man. "Your words are bold yet humble," she said. "Perhaps there is truth in them. Still, truth must be tested." Her tone was calm, but the words carried weight. Thomas understood. This was not only about talking. Actions would be required. He bowed again, his heart steady. The Queen leaned back in her throne. "We shall continue this conversation. For now you remain under my watch, a guest yet also a question to be answered. The days ahead will reveal who you truly are." The guards moved to escort him out, but before he turned, Thomas caught the Queen's gaze once more. Her eyes lingered on him longer than before, not with suspicion alone, but with curiosity. As he left the hall, he felt the path between human and alien had begun to take shape. It was fragile, like glass under weight, yet there was promise. The Queen had not dismissed him. Instead, she had chosen to listen again. That was more than he had expected. Walking through the glowing corridors, Thomas knew one thing for certain. Words alone would not be enough. He would have to prove, through action, that humanity could be trusted. And somewhere deep in his heart, he sensed the Queen already wished to see if that was true. Part 3. The challenge. The days that followed were quiet on the surface, yet Thomas could feel a storm building beneath the calm. The Queen's council was divided. Some believed his words carried hope, while others saw danger in trusting humans. The Queen herself remained steady, her silver eyes hiding her thoughts. Thomas spent his time walking the gardens, studying the glowing plants, and speaking gently with those who would listen. He knew trust was slow to grow, but he was patient. One morning, the silence of the palace was broken by news. Scouts had returned with grim reports. Raiders from a nearby star system were gathering on the borders of the Queen's world. They were known for attacking without warning, stripping resources and vanishing before proper defense could be raised. The council gathered quickly, voices rising in worry. Thomas was invited to the hall. The Queen sat tall on her crystal throne, her council around her, each one speaking in sharp tones. "They come again," one counselor said. "Their ships will cut through our skies, their blades will strike our forests. We must prepare for loss," another argued. "We should not waste time with words. We need strength, not diplomacy." The Queen raised her hand and the room fell silent. Her gaze turned to Thomas. "You have spoken much about the courage of your kind. Now I must see if your words hold weight. Will humans stand beside us when danger comes?" Thomas did not hesitate. "We will." His voice was calm, but his heart raced. He knew this moment would decide everything. The Queen leaned forward slightly, her silver hair catching the light. "Very well. I set you a trial. At the edge of the southern jungle lies a passage the raiders will use. If you and your crew can hold that line until dawn, then your words will be proven true. If you fail, then your promises mean nothing," the council murmured in surprise. Some protested that this was unfair, but the Queen's voice cut through the noise. "Strength is shown in action. Let the humans show us their spirit." Thomas bowed his head. "We accept." He was escorted back to his ship where his small crew awaited him. They had watched events unfold from a distance, and now their leader returned with a challenge that would test them all. Thomas explained the Queen's command. His crew listened with serious faces, but not one of them spoke of retreat. They knew this was not only for survival, but for the honor of humanity. The southern jungle was unlike any forest Thomas had ever seen. Trees rose like towers, their roots twisted across the ground, their leaves glowing faint green in the dark. Strange animals moved in the branches, watching silently as the humans prepared. The air was thick with mist, and the sound of flowing water echoed in the distance. The crew began setting traps along the path. They had no heavy weapons, no great machines, only their training, their tools, and their determination. They dug small pits, tied wires between trees, and placed signal lights to guide each other. They worked until the suns began to fall, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. As darkness crept across the jungle, Thomas stood with his crew at the line they had prepared. The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the distant call of unseen creatures. Then came the first sound of the raiders, the hum of engines, the snap of branches, the harsh rhythm of boots. The raiders moved like shadows, their armor dark, their weapons glowing faintly. They expected an easy victory, but when they stepped into the humans' traps, the forest itself seemed to rise against them. Nets fell, pits swallowed their steps, and wires pulled them off balance. The crew fought not with numbers but with wit. They moved quickly, striking from cover, then vanishing back into the dark. They lit fires in the distance to confuse the enemy, making it seem as if there were many more defenders than in truth. Thomas stood at the center of the line, directing his people with calm words. His voice never shook, though danger pressed close. He knew fear was natural, but he also knew courage was stronger when shared. His crew trusted him, and that trust gave them strength. From the high towers of her palace, the Queen watched the southern jungle through crystal mirrors. She saw flashes of fire, movements in the shadows, and the stubborn stand of the humans. Her council stood beside her, some expecting the humans to break, others watching in silence. The Queen's lips curved into the faintest smile. The battle stretched long into the night. Again and again, the raiders tried to break through, but the humans held the line. They fought with their minds as much as their hands, turning every tree and every stone into an ally. Though weary, they never gave up. At last, as the first light of dawn broke through the jungle, the raiders began to retreat. Their strength had been met with determination they had not expected. The southern path remained in human hands. Thomas lowered his weapon, breathing heavily. Around him, his crew stood battered but alive. They had faced the storm and endured. As the suns rose, lighting the sky with golden fire, Thomas whispered to himself, "We did not come to take. We came to stand." Far away, the queen watched the dawn as well. For the first time, she felt the truth of the human's words. He had spoken of courage, of love for others, and now he had shown it. She knew her world had changed the moment Thomas accepted her challenge. Humanity had proven itself, and her heart, though guarded, stirred with a new warmth she did not name. Part 4. Fire in the night. Night fell again over the alien world, but this night was not quiet. The jungle still carried the smell of smoke from the raid. Broken branches lay scattered, pits were filled with debris, and the faint glow of spent weapons marked where the fighting had been fiercest. Thomas and his crew sat together, their faces lit by a small flame. They were tired but proud. They had survived the trial, but they knew it was only the beginning. At the palace, the queen listened to reports. Her guards spoke of the humans' clever traps, their discipline, and the way they stood together. Some council members still doubted, saying it was only luck, but the queen's eyes told another story. She had seen enough to know luck alone could not explain the night. What she saw was spirit, the kind of spirit that could not be forced or faked. Yet the danger was not gone. Scouts returned with new warnings. The raiders had not left the system. They were gathering in greater numbers, preparing for another attack. The council argued once more. Some demanded that the humans be sent away before the raiders struck again, fearing they would bring more trouble. Others urged the queen to strike the raiders first. The queen listened in silence before raising her hand. "The humans have shown courage," she said. "If we abandon them now, we betray not only them but ourselves. We will face this night together." The hall grew quiet. Her decision was final. She looked to the silver mirrors again, watching the jungle as though her eyes could pierce every shadow. Thomas and his crew received word soon after. The raiders would return under the cover of night, this time with stronger forces. The queen sent her own guards to fight alongside them, but Thomas knew it would still be difficult. He gathered his crew and spoke plainly. "We have proven our strength once, but now we must prove it again. If we falter, they will say we were only fortunate. If we stand, they will know humanity's resolve is true." The crew nodded. None wished to turn away. They tightened their lines, repaired their traps, and prepared for the storm to come. As the second night deepened, the jungle grew restless. Animals hid in silence. The air turned heavy, carrying the scent of iron. Then the sound of engines came again, louder than before. The raiders had returned. They swept through the trees like shadows, their weapons flashing red in the dark. The humans and the queen's guards fought side by side. Spears of crystal clashed with blades of metal, and human rifles lit the jungle with sharp bursts of light. The raiders pressed hard, expecting fear, but they found resistance stronger than before. Thomas stood at the front, guiding both his crew and the queen's guards with quick commands. His voice carried calm even in chaos. He showed no fear, only focus. The humans fought with creativity. They turned fallen logs into shields, used smoke to hide their movement, and placed signal lights to confuse the enemy. Where numbers failed them, wit carried them forward. The queen's guards, though skilled, were surprised by the human way of fighting. They had never seen such inventiveness, such willingness to adapt in the middle of battle. High above, the queen stood on her tower, watching the fight through her mirrors. Her council surrounded her, voices tense, but she ignored them. Her gaze followed Thomas. She saw him move like a flame through the dark, steady and unyielding. Every order he gave was not just command, but encouragement. Every step he took carried the weight of his people. Hours passed. The jungle was filled with fire, smoke, and the cries of battle. Again and again the raiders surged, and again they were pushed back. The humans and the queen's guards stood shoulder to shoulder, neither giving way. Thomas was struck once by a blow to his shoulder, but he did not stop. He pushed forward, rallying his people with words as much as action. His presence gave strength not only to his crew but to the alien guards as well. They had doubted him before, but now they fought with renewed spirit at his side. At last, as the night began to fade and the first light touched the treetops, the raiders broke. Their lines shattered, their courage gone. They fled back into the shadows of the jungle, leaving their dead and broken weapons behind. The humans and the queen's guard stood victorious once more. The survivors gathered in silence, breathing heavily, their armor and clothes marked with battle. Thomas stood at the front, his shoulder aching but his resolve unbroken. He looked to the horizon where the suns would soon rise, and he knew they had done more than win a fight. They had shown the truth of humanity's spirit. Far away in her tower, the queen lowered her gaze from the mirrors. Her heart was steady, but within it stirred something she had not felt in many seasons. She had seen bravery before, but not like this. She had seen loyalty before, but not from strangers who owed her nothing. She whispered softly to herself, words too quiet for her counsel to hear. This man is different. His people are different. Her smile was faint, but it carried warmth. She turned from the battle and looked toward the future. Humanity had shown its fire in the night, and she knew the bond between their worlds was no longer only diplomacy. Something greater was beginning to grow, like a seed planted in the soil of battle. Part 5. A Bond Forged in Battle. The suns rose slowly over the forest, their golden light spreading across the mist that hung in the trees. Smoke still drifted from the battleground, where broken weapons and scorched earth marked the place where humans and the Queen's guards had stood together. Birds returned cautiously, singing once more as if declaring the night's danger had passed. Thomas stood at the center of the field, his clothes torn, his shoulder still aching from the blow he had taken. Around him, his crew rested against fallen logs, weary but alive. The Queen's guards gathered as well, their armor scratched, their faces marked with fatigue. Yet all shared a quiet pride. Against overwhelming odds, they had stood their ground. One of the alien guards approached Thomas and bowed slightly. "Human," he said in a low voice, "last night you fought as if this world were your own. You have earned my respect." His words were simple, but they carried weight. Others nodded in agreement, their earlier doubt replaced with admiration. Thomas gave a small smile. "We fought together. That is what mattered." By midday, messengers from the palace arrived to escort the defenders back. The Queen awaited them in her throne room, her crystal hall filled with the murmurs of the council. Some looked uneasy, others surprised, and a few even appeared humbled. All eyes turned as Thomas and his companions entered. The Queen rose from her throne, a rare gesture that made the hall fall silent. Her silver hair glowed in the light of the crystals, and her eyes shone brighter than ever. She stepped forward, her voice carrying across the chamber. 2 nights, 2 battles, and 2 victories. These humans stood not for themselves alone, but for us. They held the line where many would have broken. They showed us that courage is not measured by numbers, but by the will to protect. The council shifted uneasily. Some bowed their heads. None dared to interrupt. The Queen turned her gaze to Thomas. "You spoke of defending what you love. Last night I saw your truth. You and your people have earned the respect of my guards, and now you have earned mine." Her words echoed through the hall. Thomas bowed low, not as a servant, but as a man honoring a friend. "We are grateful, Your Majesty. Humanity seeks no conquest here. We seek only bonds that endure." For the first time since his arrival, the Queen allowed herself a smile that was not faint or guarded, but warm. It was brief, yet it changed the air of the hall. After the council meeting ended, the Queen requested Thomas remain. Her guards stayed at a distance while the others departed. The great chamber grew quiet, lit only by the glow of the crystals. "You risked much," the Queen said, stepping closer. "You could have fled. You could have left us to face the raiders alone. Yet you chose to fight. Why?" Thomas looked at her directly. "Because we believe trust is not built with words alone. If we wish to call you friend, then we must be willing to bleed at your side. That is what it means to be human." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Her silver eyes held both strength and softness, as if weighing every word he spoke. At last she nodded. "Your people are unlike others I have known. You are not the strongest nor the most advanced, yet you carry something I cannot ignore. Perhaps it is what makes your kind dangerous, and perhaps it is what makes you precious." Thomas gave a gentle smile. "Perhaps both, Your Majesty. But know this, we do not seek to rule. We seek to share." She turned then, walking toward the great windows that overlooked her city. The towers below gleamed in the sunlight. The rivers shone like silver threads, and life continued as if the battle had been only a dream. Yet the Queen knew change was in the air. "My council will resist," she said quietly. "They will say your presence brings danger. They will say your words cannot erase the risk. But I have seen what they have not. I have seen your heart." Her words struck Thomas deeply. He bowed his head. "If I must prove myself again, I will. If my people must prove themselves, we will. But I believe one day you will not question, only trust." The queen looked back at him, her expression softer than ever before. Perhaps that day is closer than you think. Later that evening, Thomas walked through the gardens outside the palace. The plants glowed faintly in the twilight, their colors shifting with the fading light. He thought of Earth, of home, and of how strange fate was to bring him here. He thought of the queen's words, of the warmth in her eyes when she spoke of his heart. He did not know what the future would hold, but he knew this much. A bond had been forged in battle. It was more than alliance, more than strategy. It was the beginning of trust, the beginning of something rare between two worlds so far apart. And in the silence of her private chambers, the queen thought the same. She had felt many things in her life, duty, pride, even sorrow, but now she felt curiosity that bordered on hope. For the first time, she wondered not just what humanity could bring to her people, but what this one man, Tomas, could mean to her. Part 6. The Whisper of the Queen. The garden was quiet under the twin moons, their silver light spilling over glowing plants and crystal fountains. Tomas walked slowly along the winding paths, his thoughts heavy with the events of the past nights. The humans had proven themselves, and the queen had seen the truth of their courage. Yet something deeper stirred within him. The queen had not only tested them, but had also begun to show signs of curiosity and warmth that few of her kind ever revealed. She appeared suddenly at the far end of the path, her silver hair shimmering like liquid light. She moved without sound, her presence both commanding and graceful. Thomas stopped, bowing slightly out of respect, though his heart thumped faster than he wished. "You walk among my gardens as if you belong," the queen said, her voice soft but carrying strength. "Do you not feel the weight of what has passed?" Thomas shook his head. "I feel it, Your Majesty, every moment. But the weight is not only danger, it is honor. We stood for your people and we stood together. That is something I carry proudly." The queen stepped closer, her silver eyes meeting his. "You speak as one who understands more than words can show. Humans are strange. You risk life for others you barely know. Why?" Thomas looked at the glowing plants around them, at the fountains that sparkled with light. "Because to protect others is to live fully. To fight for what is right, for what is valued, is what makes us who we are. We do not take life lightly, nor do we give up easily. That is humanity." The queen listened in silence, her gaze softening. Her people often fought for honor, yes, but rarely for others. This human was different. She stepped even closer, the soft glow of her presence surrounding them both. "Perhaps your words are like a proposal," she said quietly, almost as a question to herself. Thomas blinked, surprised. He had not expected her to speak in such a manner. I do not know, Your Majesty," he replied honestly. "I only know that I care for the trust and the bond between our peoples. I have acted to prove that care, not to ask anything in return." The queen smiled faintly, a gesture that warmed the air around them. "Yet a bond is formed through action as well as words. You have proven courage, honesty, and respect. These are rare qualities in any being. Perhaps they deserve acknowledgement beyond diplomacy." Thomas's heart beat faster. He had not expected this moment, and yet something deep inside him felt calm. "If my actions have earned trust, that is enough for me. But if there is more, I would accept it with respect." The queen's eyes gleamed in the moonlight. She stepped even closer, her voice lowering to a whisper. "Then I speak clearly. I accept what you have offered. Your courage, your loyalty, your heart. Not as a ruler to a subject, but as one being to another." Tomas felt a strange warmth spread through him. Her words were more than honor or gratitude. They were personal, direct, and sincere. He bowed his head in respect, unable to find words that could fully match the weight of what she had just said. The garden around them seemed to quiet further. The glowing plants pulsed gently as if sharing in the moment. Even the fountains whispered softly, their waters reflecting the twin moons. It was a night of acknowledgement, of connection, and of understanding that bridged worlds. "You humans are persistent," the queen said with a slight laugh. The first sound of amusement Thomas had heard from her. "And yet you do not boast. You act quietly, yet with strength. It is admirable." Thomas smiled faintly, feeling the weight of both relief and awe. "We do what is right, not for praise, but because it is what must be done. That is our way." For a long time they walked together in silence. No words were needed, for each understood the other's meaning. Trust had been forged in battle, respect in conversation, and now something softer, more personal began to grow. Finally, the queen spoke again. The future is uncertain. My counsel may resist and the stars beyond will always hold danger. But tonight I see clearly. Humanity is worthy of trust, and you, Tomas, are worthy of consideration beyond duty. He nodded, feeling the gravity of her words. I will honor it, Your Majesty. I will honor you, your people, and the bond we share. The queen smiled once more, stepping back slightly. Then rest, human. The night is ours and the future awaits. We shall see what it brings together. As Thomas walked back toward the palace, he felt a lightness he had never known. The trials had proven more than courage. They had created a bond between two very different worlds. And somewhere in that bond, a seed had been planted, waiting to grow into something extraordinary. Part 7. A Future Shared. The twin suns rose slowly over the alien world, casting golden light across forests, rivers, and towers made of crystal. The battlefields of the past nights lay quiet now, as if the land itself breathed a sigh of relief. Tomas stood on a balcony in the palace, looking out over the city. The humans had proven themselves. The queen had seen the truth in their hearts, and now the future seemed full of possibilities. The queen approached, her silver hair catching the sunlight. She moved with grace, her presence calm and commanding. Thomas turned and bowed respectfully, but the queen waved gently, indicating he should rise. The council has spoken, she said softly. They are still cautious, but they no longer doubt your people. Your courage and honor have changed their minds. You have done what few could accomplish. Thomas nodded. It was not only my effort. My crew and even your guards fought with determination. We stood together, and that made the difference. The queen's silver eyes softened. Indeed, strength shared is stronger than strength alone. I have seen it now. You humans do not seek power for its own sake. Yet your spirit is fierce when it matters most. That is rare in the galaxy. For a moment they stood in silence, looking out over the city. The streets were filled with the quiet bustle of life returning to normal. Children played among glowing fountains, merchants arranged their colorful goods, and citizens went about their daily routines. Peace had returned, but it was a fragile peace, one built on mutual respect and trust. I wish to speak freely, the queen said, turning to face him. Your people are different, and I am learning to see them not as strangers, but as friends. And you, Thomas, have proven yourself not only brave but honorable. For that I am grateful. Thomas felt a warmth spread through him. Your Majesty, the honor is mine. To earn the trust of your people is more than we hoped for. To be accepted by you is a gift I will always value. The queen smiled faintly, a smile that carried both authority and personal warmth. She stepped closer, her voice lowering to a whisper. And now, human, I speak honestly. I accept the bond you have offered. Not as a ruler to a visitor, but as one being to another. A bond of trust, of friendship, and perhaps something more. Thomas's heart skipped. He bowed his head, feeling both respect and a strange excitement. I am humbled, Your Majesty. Whatever this bond becomes, I will honor it fully. She looked at him, her silver eyes glimmering like the stars. Then let it be known. Humanity and my people will rise together. Not in conquest, but in alliance. Let our worlds share knowledge, protection, and hope for the future. Tomas nodded, feeling the weight of her words. It was more than diplomacy or battle. It was a promise, a new beginning. He thought of Earth, of his crew, and of the vast galaxy that stretched beyond their vision. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and doubt, yet they had endured. And now the seeds of something extraordinary had been planted. The queen extended her hand, not in command, but in gesture. Thomas took it with care, feeling a strange warmth and connection. Around them, the palace shimmered, the city below glinting in sunlight. Birds flew high above, their wings catching light as if celebrating the moment. Together we will face what comes, the queen said softly. Not alone and not with fear. We will rise stronger than before. Thomas smiled, looking into her eyes. Together. Word spread quickly through the city and beyond. Citizens saw humans walking beside alien guards, sharing stories and laughter. Children watched in awe, learning that courage and friendship could cross even the boundaries of worlds. Across the stars, other races heard of the alliance, surprised and curious. The humans had proven themselves worthy, not only of trust but of admiration. As the day drew on, Thomas and the queen walked through the palace gardens. The glowing plants seemed brighter than ever, reflecting the promise of a future shared. They spoke of many things, hope, learning, and the possibilities that lay ahead. There was no hurry, no pressure, only understanding and quiet joy. That night, Tomas looked up at the twin moons, remembering the long journey that had brought him here. From a simple human diplomat to a symbol of courage and trust, he realized how much had changed. Not only had humans earned the respect of an alien queen, but they had shown that their spirit could inspire even the most distant worlds. The queen stood beside him, silent but present. Her silver eyes reflected the moons and a faint smile graced her lips. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "But what a beginning it is." Thomas nodded, feeling hope swell within him. "Yes, Your Majesty. Together we will see what the future holds." And so a bond was sealed, not just in words or in battle, but in respect, courage, and the willingness to walk forward side by side. Across the stars, humanity had begun a new chapter, one of friendship, trust, and a shared future with the Queen and her people. The story of their courage and heart would be told for generations, a tale of hope and unity among worlds.